This is the Nothing Ear 3, and in this video, we're going on an in-depth journey from an audio engineer's perspective to see if it's a worthy successor to last year's 3rd gen Nothing Ear. Yeah, Nothing 3, 3rd gen. They fixed the name and went back to having numbers again, so yeah, this is the 4th gen Nothing Ear 3. Confusing. By the end, you'll know if the jump from $150 to $180 is justified and if the Nothing Ear 3 is the right fit for you. For the best experience, grab some headphones or earbuds and put them in both of your ears. Let's dive in with our first song sample from my friend Hannah Parrott. You'll see labels on the screen for any test or song throughout this video. The most significant change to the hardware is the new higher quality build, which blends more durable, scratch-resistant aluminum with plastic. That durability allowed them to add a lanyard loop, and there's this new button with talk etched onto it to activate the super mic and the corresponding LED. We'll discuss that further in the microphone test section. The pair button has also moved to the inside of the case. The metal accents carry over to the earbuds, where there's a new strip of metal added to the design. Initially, when I saw the teasers for this design, I had hopes that they had added swipe gestures to adjust the volume, but that isn't the case. All interactions are based upon single, double, triple pinches and pinch and double pinch and hold, and a lot of crazy things that you can customize within the app, but it's just really cumbersome. When setting up the double pinch and hold for volume, it's too easy to pause or change the tracks, and there's this loud, piercing, high frequency, glitchy tick sound that just hurts in my ears. I just don't know what's going on. They did change the shape of the earbuds a little bit, and unfortunately for my ears, it doesn't feel like they are sitting in them as confidently as the Ear 2024. I often found myself reseating them to ensure that they fit correctly to get the best sound, and that's after trying out various ear tip sizes, which go down to extra small. This is an ear specific thing, so try them out for yourself and see if it's an issue. Both the case and the earbuds have an IP54 rating. You can definitely tell that they've learned a lot and found some great manufacturing partners since their first release, because the fit and finish are their best yet in an earbud. It simply feels more mature and they look amazing as usual. For this next song, listen to the low end, the reverb from the vocals and the snare, and the sharpness of the hi-hat and the snare spread from the wah-wah sound, and let us know in the comments what you notice. The blend of metal and plastic allows the Ear 3 to maintain its ability to charge wirelessly. Battery life is still okay and varies depending on whether you have ANC on or off, and if you're using AAC or LDAC codecs. All the options are shown on screen, but the notable thing is that you only get 5.5 hours with ANC on while using AAC, with up to 22 hours total with the case, and a meager 3.5 hours with ANC on and while using LDAC. You will likely hear a lot of people talk about fast charging capabilities on the Ear 3 and how you can get 10 hours of playback with just a 10-minute charge. Well, that was hardly my experience. I looked into the fine print and it turns out that's only true if you do not use ANC or LDAC. As a whole, battery life remains one of the areas that needs the most significant improvement for Nothing, as it cannot handle most flights and the Uber rides surrounding them. It has Bluetooth 5.4, and while the Nothing Headphone 1 had insane range, the connectivity on my Nothing Ear 3 unit has been surprisingly buggy. I've had songs cut out even when my phone is less than a yard away, which is definitely a step back from the previous generation. I'm on the latest software, so hopefully this is an early bug that gets ironed out, but it's something that you need to know about my experience. As for some of the other features, it supports Google Fast Pair, dual connection, earbud fit test, auto transparency mode for whenever you're on a call, and a Find My feature that enables the earbuds to emit a loud noise. However, it doesn't use Google's Find My device network for location tracking. One of my favorite features that nothing does better than anyone else is their advanced EQ, which allows for a more granular control of the frequency and the Q factor. While I absolutely love this, I have a wish list for nothing to make it even better. Give us complete control over the frequency ranges so they're not locked into specific ranges, increase the number of bands to 10, and please remove the preamp compression that changes the volume when you make adjustments. It's just really frustrating for anyone who has mixed professionally, but it's still my favorite EQ out there. So keep it up, but make it better. It also has low latency mode that they say brings the latency down to 120 milliseconds. Let's see what the objective test says, but first, another song sample. This track is filled with a lot. Listen to the subfrequencies from the high end and the snare and the hi-hat type sounds, and the mid-range from the synth. Now for the first set of objective test, we'll compare the difference in frames from the time I tap the screen and you hear the resulting sound effect. Both earbuds have low latency enabled, and you'll be able to see the labels on the screen for all tests. As you can see, these are not ideal for professional gaming where latency is crucial. It's perfectly fine for casual gamers and games. For this track, listen to how clear the bass and electric guitar are and how bright the cymbals are. Now, one of the most critical aspects of a Bluetooth headphone or earbud is its mic quality. But before we dive into those tests, this video is sponsored in part by Panasonic and their Panasonic Palm Razor. They wanted me to do this ad read in ASMR. Nice. As someone who travels a lot, I'm always trying to make my kit smaller and more efficient. And that's why the Panasonic Palm Razor has become my one razor for everything. It has blades made with the same technology used in crafting Japanese swords, making them extremely sharp for close shaving, yet still gentle on skin. It's powerful enough for daily use at home, but perfect for travel. It's compact, charges over USB-C, and comes with this great protective case. I throw it in my bag and don't worry about it. Aesthetically, it has a beautiful, minimalistic, and modern style. The white palm razor design is made from eco-friendly nagori, inspired by nature and reminiscent of balanced stone in Japanese Zen gardens. I also love the little details like this magnetic blade cover. Oh, I love magnets. Its waterproof body and detachable head make cleaning easy. Combined with its great fit in the hand and smart beard sensing tech, you get a fantastic, comfortable shave every time with no tugging or irritation. Nice. To get your own palm razor, click the link in my description or scan the QR code on the screen. And thanks again to Panasonic for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, for the headline new feature, the Super Mic. The idea is simple. In a super loud environment where the earbud mics struggle, you can press the button on the case, hold it up to your mouth, and get a clear signal.
Here's what the microphone sounds like on the Nothing Ear 2024 in a simulated cafe environment. Currently, I do have the decibels of the speaker pumping out the cafe noise at about 85 decibels. So it's a little bit on the higher end of what a cafe environment could sound like. So how do you think it sounds? Now we're using the Nothing Ear 3 in the simulated cafe environment. Again, we're at about 85 decibels for the volume level here. And we're just using the earbuds themselves. So we're not using the Super Mic yet. Let's enable that now. So I'm going to hold it down and it'll enable. I'll wait for the chime to... Okay, let's move over. So now we're using the Super Mic in the simulated cafe environment.
at about 85 decibels. So this is what the microphone sounds like on the super mic. Does it sound better than the normal earbuds? I'm going to release the super mic button there, and we should be back at the earbuds now. So what do you think about the microphone quality and the simulated cafe environment? Okay, now we're using the Nothing Ear 2024 in a simulated windy environment. We have it at about 5, the medium speed for my fan here. How do you think the microphone is performing in the simulated windy environment on the Nothing Ear 2024? Okay, now we're in a simulated windy environment with the Nothing Ear 3. We're just with the earbuds here. Again, we're at speed 5 on my fan here. So it's just the earbuds. How do you think they're faring on the Nothing Ear 3? Okay, now we are using the super mic in a simulated windy environment here with the Nothing Ear 3. So this is with the super mic. I'm going to point the mic at the fan to see if it sounds any different. And now we're going to point it away from it and see if it sounds any sort of like any better or whatever. So is it better? Is it handling this well? I don't know. Let me know what you notice in the comments.
It works because of simple physics. The mic is closer to your mouth compared to the earbuds. But in practice, it's full of quirks. Its compatibility with apps varies, and even more so with specific features within those apps. It doesn't work with native camera apps, so this will not work for TikTokers. I also had audio sync issues with both the Blackmagic camera app and my video calls. So we're using the Blackmagic camera app for this recording for video and audio, and I'm using the Nothing Ear 2024, so the prior generation for the microphones. How do you think it sounds? Here's what the Nothing Ear 3 sounds like on the Blackmagic camera app, the microphone with just the earbuds. How do you think it sounds? So now we are using the super mic here on the Nothing Ear 3 with the Blackmagic camera app. How do you think it sounds? Does it sound better? Okay, we're going to do a little test to see how long it takes for the super mic to enable and switch between the earbuds and the case and see if there are any sort of like dropouts between that transition. So I'm going to keep talking and I'm going to hold down starting in 1, 2, 3, and we're still talking in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now it just clicked. And it should be enabled now for the super mic. That seemed like it took a long time for that to enable. I'm going to release it now and see if it has any sort of dropout in terms of the transition between the super mic and the earbuds. So what do you notice? Let me know in the comments. Here's what the Nothing Ear 2024 would sound like if we were to use them on a Zoom call. How do you think they sound? And here's what the Nothing Ear 3 would sound like if you were to use them on a Zoom call. We're just using the earbuds for this. How do you think it sounds? And here is what the super mic sounds like for the Nothing Ear 3 if you were to use it on a Zoom call. Do you think it sounds better? Let me know in the comments. It seems like there may be some stuttering or latency that is happening there. That's what the previous clip looked like. I don't know if it's like out of sync right now, but what do you think? If that's the case, that might be a problem for the super mic. Interestingly, it does not work with Nothing's own voice recording app. Plot twist, I got it to work. But it does work for Essential Space Notes, which you can tell by the yellow LED light. And while it does work with Essential Space, it differs from other AI recording earbuds that allow you to record a group meeting by simply placing the case on the table, hitting record, or recording with the earbuds in your ears, and then letting the AI synthesize the meeting into notes and mind maps and all those other cool things. Honestly, it's a missed opportunity to integrate that, but maybe next time. Here's what it would sound like if you were to receive an HD phone call from someone who is using Nothing Ear 2024. So this is just the earbuds from the Nothing Ear 2024, so the older version, over an HD phone call. How do you think it sounds? Here's what it would sound like if you were to receive an HD phone call from someone who is using the Nothing Ear 3s. These are just the earbuds themselves. How do you think it sounds with just the earbuds on the Nothing Ear 3? Here's how it would sound like if you were to receive a phone call from someone who is using the Nothing Ear 3s with the super mic. So this is the super mic, and supposedly it's supposed to sound better than just the earbuds. Does it actually sound better? Let me know in the comments. And here's the biggest problem. When this is in my pocket, the button gets pressed all the time by my keys or phone, which creates all sorts of issues. For a quick call on a noisy train, it could be a lifesaver, but for most people, it feels more like a gimmick than a must-have feature. But what do you hear in the test, and would you actually use this? Let me know your observations and thoughts in the comments. And by the way, there's a neat new feature on YouTube that lets me respond to your comments with a voice message. So if you comment on the first day this video goes live, I'll respond to each one of your comments personally with a voice reply. So hope to see you there in the comments. For this song, pay attention to the clarity of the attack on the acoustic guitar strings and how forward the mid-range is on the body of the guitar and vocals.
When the nights get cold, sometimes when I look over, I see you by a fire with your hands out in the open. And I wonder if you're singing autumn song, or if I'm singing all alone. I must be singing on my own. I'm still falling out of love with you.
One of the weakest areas of Nothing's earbuds have been their ANC and transparency modes. What's interesting is how Nothing described the Nothing Ear 3 ANC. They say that the ANC adjusts every 600 milliseconds, or more than half a second, and adjusts for fit-related leakage every 1,875 milliseconds, or nearly 2 seconds. You see how unimpressive milliseconds sounds when you put them in the context of seconds? Even on a technical level, they're still quite a bit behind the major players like Sony, Apple, and Bose. And ANC and transparency modes on wireless headphones and earbuds are a critical feature. So while the marketing is a bit self-flattering, what ultimately matters is the performance. So here are some objective tests to help us gauge its performance and determine how much ANC is accomplishing beyond passive cancellation. Okay, this is what transparency mode sounds like in a clean, quiet room on the Nothing Ear 2024. This is in transparency mode on the Nothing Ear 2024. Here's the Nothing Ear 3 in a clean, quiet room in transparency mode. How do you think it sounds? This is the Nothing Ear 3 in transparency mode in a clean, quiet room. Here is what the Nothing Ear 2024 sounds like in a quiet room with ANC adaptive on. So this is ANC adaptive on the Nothing Ear 2024 in a clean, quiet room. So this is the Nothing Ear 3 in a clean, quiet room with the ANC on adaptive on the Nothing Ear 3. Here's what the Nothing Ear 2024 sounds like in transparency mode within a simulated cafe environment. We're at about an average of 82-83 decibels, so kind of similar to what we have with the microphones. This is what the transparency mode sounds like on the Nothing Ear 2024. Here's the Nothing Ear 3 in a simulated cafe environment in transparency mode. This is the Nothing Ear 3 in the transparency mode in a simulated cafe environment. Here's what the passive noise cancellation sounds like on the Nothing Ear 2024 in a simulated noisy environment. This is passive noise cancellation. Here's the Nothing Ear 3 in a simulated cafe environment with everything off. So this is transparency mode, no ANC. Here's what active noise cancellation sounds like on the Nothing Ear 2024 in a simulated cafe environment. This is what the active noise cancellation sounds like on the Nothing Ear 2024. Here's the Nothing Ear 3 in ANC mode in a simulated cafe environment on high. This is the ANC mode on high on the Nothing Ear 3 in a simulated cafe environment. Here is the Nothing Ear 2024 in ANC mode with the adaptive mode turned on. So this seems to be performing a little bit better than the high mode. So adaptive ANC on the Nothing Ear 2024 in a simulated cafe environment. Here's the Nothing Ear 3 in ANC mode adaptive in a simulated cafe environment. This is the Nothing Ear 3 in ANC mode adaptive in a simulated cafe environment. How do you think it's performing? Here's what the Nothing Ear 2024 sounds like in a simulated windy environment in transparency mode. This is the simulated windy environment for the Nothing Ear 2024 in transparency mode. Here's the Nothing Ear 3. We're going to see if there's a volume dip on the transparency mode with the wind. And we're going to check. Is it going to dip down? I don't think I'm hearing a dip down, but this is transparency mode on the Nothing Ear 3 in a simulated windy environment. How do you think it sounds? Oh, there's the dip now. Here is what the Nothing Ear 2024 sounds like in a simulated windy environment in the off mode. So nothing is on, no transparency, no ANC. So this is off on the Nothing Ear 2024 in a simulated windy environment. It's a Nothing Ear 3 in a simulated transparency mode. No ANC. Ear 3, it rhymes, but everything's off. Here is the Nothing Ear 2024 in a simulated windy environment in ANC mode. We're on the high mode. We're going to move to adaptive. And here is the Nothing Ear 2024 in a simulated windy environment on the adaptive ANC mode. How do you think it sounds? Here's the Nothing Ear 3 in ANC mode on high in a simulated windy environment. This is the Nothing Ear 3 in ANC mode high in a simulated windy environment. And then we're going to adaptive. Here is what adaptive sounds like on the Nothing Ear 3 in a Unfortunately, ANC and transparency remains one of the weakest aspects of Nothing's earbuds. You could argue that turning ANC off altogether performed better, and that may be true depending on your specific sensitivity to frequencies. What I noticed is that ANC did more to reduce the low end and mid-range frequencies, but emphasized the high end compared to passive noise cancellation. To be fair though, it's definitely better than the Nothing Ear 2024, so at least it's an improvement. The best ANC mode to use is adaptive, as it sometimes performs better than the high ANC mode. Regardless, it falls significantly behind the likes of Sony, Bose, and Apple to the point where it's not even worth using, and it's better to rely on passive noise cancellation, in my opinion. The benefit of turning it off is that it would increase your battery life, which is the weakest part of the Nothing Ear 3. Transparency is equally lacking, making it feel muffled and unnatural. It's fine, but it's not impressive, and at least you don't notice any body-borne resonance when talking, which is good. As a whole, I hope Nothing finds a way to improve ANC transparency substantially in the next generation. 4 generations of this quality is too long. This next song is a very mid-range, warm, and soulful track. Listen to her vocals, the electric guitar lines, and the keyboard.
And together we were all above it all.
Oftentimes, people get caught up in factors like driver size, materials, and marketing, and make a decision based solely on those aspects, thinking that those all improve the sound. Do they only use one driver? Well, obviously, 3 drivers are better than 1. Does it use a dynamic driver? Well, planar magnetic is way better, right? Well, it depends. The Nothing Ear 3 increases its dynamic driver to 12mm and uses different materials than before. And materials and setup alone can help with issues like harmonic distortion or soundstage, which have definitely improved on the Ear 3, particularly soundstage. It can also provide the ability to produce more bass and treble. They say bass increased from 4 to 6 decibels and treble by up to 4 decibels, but out of context, this doesn't make much sense because decibel levels are not linear. 4 decibels out of what? All we really know is that bass and treble is more pronounced, and that is very much true just by listening to them. However, the problem arises when the sound signature between models is simply more bass and treble rather than utilizing the added capability to achieve a balanced sound that's more vast and expanded. Without balancing things, you get a scoop sound with overemphasized bass and treble, and that overlooks a crucial aspect of the sound: the mid-range. I'm sure you've been able to hear from the song samples throughout this video, but the Ear 3 is more scooped than the Ear 2024. The Ear 2024 had a fairly robust mid-range, but lacked a bit of the tighter and punchier low end and some of the high-end openness. It is a nice sounding mellow earbud that only needed minor EQ tweaks to clean up some of the boxiness. The Ear 3's low end is often too much to the point where it obscures details in the mid-range and the high end, and it's not as bad as Sony can be, where it feels like it's resonating in your nose and overwhelming everything. In comparison, it does have moments that sound more controlled and punchy. So there's something really good there still, but it's just too much of a good thing, and balance is key. Along with that, the high end can be harsh. I usually add a touch of high end to my custom EQs to add a little bit more energy and bite to things, which is excellent for things like distorted guitars. However, on the Nothing Ear 3, there are a few areas of the high end that were too much to me to the point that it was hurting my ears. This became extremely apparent when listening to snare drums on some tracks or albums like Sleep Token's latest album, Even in Arcadia. High end energy can be good and fun, but again, balance is key. As a whole, if I were to pick between the earbuds on their default EQs, I would easily choose the Nothing Ear 2024. They're far more balanced. However, the nuance is that you still have Nothing's advanced EQ available to help shape the sound to fit your taste more. It remains the best EQ out there from any brand and is available to use on iOS, but it doesn't solve everything. We'll talk about that more after the following song sample. Pay attention to the cymbals high end, the kick drums attack, and the bass guitar's warmth.
Summer, loving, give me something. I'm about to lose my mind. 'Cause when I see you, I really think I need you. Every single summertime. feels just like.
Throughout this video, you've been hearing my custom EQ, which is available to channel members and helps support the channel, which allows me to create free content like this for you. If you sign up, you gain access to my custom EQs from other headphones and earbuds, custom wallpapers, and more, and it's very appreciated when you sign up. With this custom EQ, I utilize the philosophy and method I taught in my How to EQ video, which is linked in the card up here or in the description, and I focus on removing problem frequencies and reducing the low end to make things sound more balanced. If you're a channel member and check out the EQ, it's best to create an advanced EQ profile that's entirely flat and switch between the profiles to hear the difference. Now keep in mind the Nothing EQ app lowers the volume when you adjust anything, so do one click up for the custom EQ and one click down for the flat EQ. There is also an unlisted video linked in the description that utilizes songs I can't use in this video or I'll get demonetized. It provides a deeper insight into the difference in sound quality between the default EQ and my custom EQ. So you know how I mentioned how the advanced EQ does not solve everything? Since Nothing's advanced EQ is limited to specific band ranges, there's only so much I can do to fix the sound. My refinements focus on the low end to clean it up so it doesn't overwhelm the mix as much and reduce the painful frequencies on the high end. Ideally, the tuning would be amazing at the start, so you wouldn't need to EQ it much at all. In this case, there's too much that needs to be fixed, and the EQ lacks the flexibility to solve it all. Only Nothing can substantially adjust the sound to get it to where it should be. Despite these limitations, with my custom EQ, the low end is heavier and punchier than on the Nothing Ear 2024, and the high end is more energetic, clear, and airy. It sounds good, even if it's not perfect. So if you sign up as a channel member and receive my custom EQ, please let me know your thoughts on it, and I'm interested in hearing your feedback on how it balances and enhances the sound for you. I also have 2 additional custom EQs if you want a more mellow sound, or one that keeps some of the bass if you're more of a bass head. This song has a lot of great reverb. Listen to how forward the vocals sound and whether or not you can hear much of the percussive instruments in the background, or if they sound buried. The mid-range can bring out some of the instruments. The bass guitar is also a significant part of this song. So should you get the Nothing Ear 3, and is that price jump to $180 justified? The biggest reason to upgrade is the new design. The metal case feels incredibly premium and durable in a way no other earbud case does. If you're looking for more bass and a wider sound stage than the previous Nothing buds, then you'll definitely get that here. However, if you're looking for top tier ANC transparency and extraordinary battery life, these aren't it. For me, the Super Mic is more of a party trick than a killer feature, unless you're the type of person who constantly talks to people on the phone in noisy environments. So would I use them? Yes, but with a big asterisk. With my custom EQ, I actually prefer the more energetic and spacious sound over the stock Ear 2024. I just wish I didn't have to work so hard to get there. And I'm hard on Nothing because I see its potential. They keep taking steps forward in design, but feel like they're taking steps back in tuning, moving away from a balanced enthusiast sound towards mass market bass equals good slop. My final plea to Nothing is be a Michelin star restaurant, not a late night drunk meal. For $180, there's still a great value, but know what you're getting: a beautifully designed, fun sounding earbud that still has some growing up to do in key areas. If you're interested in picking up the Nothing Ear 3, please check out the link in the description. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Nothing Ear 3 and this review in the comments. This song has a killer bass line, and pay attention to that, the synth and the vocal reverb. This review was made possible with a review sample provided by Nothing. While it should be obvious, Nothing does not have any editorial input, control, or prior evaluation before publishing this review. No compensation has been provided to me by them for this review. This video is supported by viewers like you who watch, become channel members, and support my sponsor, Panasonic. Thank you for watching This Is Tech Today. Until next time.